Hey everybody, so today I want to talk about 10 interesting statistics that I've picked up on looking at the stats and standings pages on NHL.com to this point in the season. They're just things that I found really interesting and would like to talk about a little bit more. Before we start, I just want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe, as that greatly helps out the channel and is very much appreciated. So let's get into it with number one. The Philadelphia Flyers only have 3 home regulation losses this year, as of recording, obviously, but they're still a bubble playoff team and currently right now 1 point outside of a playoff spot. So there's really 2 parts to this. One, that's absolutely incredible that Philadelphia only has 3 home regulation losses all season long. To be this late in the season, more than halfway through the year, and to have only 3 losses is fantastic. That's a really good sign for the Philadelphia Flyers. The problem is they're not in a playoff spot right now, which really goes to show, A, how competitive the Eastern Conference is, and B, how bad the Flyers have been on the road. The road record is absolutely killing Philadelphia because obviously their home record is outstanding. So Philly, 3 home regulation losses the entire season, and they're still only a bubble playoff team. Number 2, the Detroit Red Wings goal differential, minus 75 right now. Absolutely brutally bad. Detroit, obviously the worst team in the league. They're having a just horrendous season this year. Minus 75 goal differential, not even 2/3 of the way through the season yet. They are well on their way to having a goal differential worse than negative 100. The last team to have a goal differential of minus 100 or worse in the NHL was the 2016-17 Colorado Avalanche with minus 112 goal differential. That team was the historically bad 48-point Avalanche team. Detroit has the possibility of A, having a goal differential worse than them, worse than minus 112, and 2, possibly finishing with a worse record than that team. They are within striking distance of being worse than that 2016-17 Colorado team. So obviously really bad year for the Detroit Red Wings. Shockingly bad, like incredibly shockingly bad. When you really look at the numbers, they could be worse. They could be the worst team we've seen probably in the past 10 years or more in the NHL. Number 3, there are 24 point per game players right now who have played 30 plus games this season. So scoring continues to be higher in the NHL than it has been, going back 5 or so years. The last, I want to say 3 or 4 years, scoring's really ticked up in the NHL, and that continues. Obviously, there are other point per game players, but if you've played less than 30 games, I'm not counting you right now because obviously, some guys have only played 1 or 2 games. If you have 2 points in 2 games, you're a point per game player, but you've only played 2 NHL games. So people who are playing consistently, 30 plus games played, 24 of them are averaging a point per game. That's actually less than we had last year, but scoring is still high in the NHL. And we've got some players are more than capable of scoring 120 points this year. And recently, that's been a very hard number to reach at the NHL level. We haven't seen it very often. So we'll see if this continues, and we'll see if any of these guys are able to reach 120. I think McDavid has a pretty good chance, Draisaitl as well. Possibly even McKinnon, but we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes along. Number 4, Evander Kane leads the league in penalty minutes with 91 this season, and he led the league last year in penalty minutes with 153. So what makes this really interesting is Evander Kane is a top-line player. Evander Kane is not a fourth-line fighter. He's not, your typical league leader in penalty minutes normally, or at least how things used to be in the NHL, but this shows how things have changed in the NHL. The enforcers are all gone. There's really no one left that's strictly there just to fight. That kind of player has been phased out of the game. And now your league leader in penalty minutes is a guy who had 30-plus goals last season and has 18 goals this year, and he's also leading the league in penalty minutes, and that's the new NHL, and that's the way the game has trended, where you're going to have these guys like an Evander Kane, like a Tom Wilson, these kind of guys who can play, who can score goals, who are good hockey players, but also are not afraid to play physically, aren't afraid to get themselves in trouble from time to time, kind of can be hotheads at times, and that's the kind of player now that's leading the league in penalty minutes, and while also scoring a ton of points and goals as well. The strictly the penalty minute guys, the big tough defensemen, the fourth line fighters, they're all gone at this point. So yeah, your penalty minute leader is no longer going to be a fourth line guy. It's for the last 2 years at least, or at least last year and this year up until now, it's Evander Kane, literally a top-line winger in the NHL. Number 5, no Western Conference team has a goal differential worse than -30. So we talked about Detroit's goal differential at -75. No one else in the league is even close to them, but no team in the Western Conference has a goal differential worse than -30. So that shows that even the bottom teams in the Western Conference aren't horrible. There's really no absolutely horrendous team in the Western Conference this year. The worst teams, Anaheim right now, LA also, in San Jose near the bottom, but they're not absolutely terrible teams. They're not good teams, certainly, but they're not absolutely terrible. And I think the Kings in particular have been a lot better this year than I thought they were going to be. And none of them are giving up massive amounts of goals. None of them are at Detroit's level, to say the least. And that's a fact. So Western Conference pretty strong. Even at the bottom, their bottom isn't as bad as the bottom in the East. Number 6, another Western Conference stat. No Western Conference team has a losing record at home. So this I found very, very interesting, because kind of goes off the last point I made about no team in the West being absolutely horrible. No, not even the worst teams in the Western Conference, the Chicago, the 3 California teams, even the bottom of the conference, none of them have a losing record at home this season. They all are either 500 or higher on home ice, even the worst teams in the conference. So I found that really, really interesting and a bit surprising for sure. Chicago has the worst home record in the Western Conference, and they're right at 500. They're 11-11-3 on the season at home. Number 7, Vancouver is the only team in the NHL with a losing road record, but still in a playoff spot. Another really interesting stat I saw, every other playoff team, 16 teams make the playoffs in the NHL. 15 of those 16 teams holding a playoff spot right now have a winning record on the road. Vancouver is the only one of them that has a losing road record and is still in a playoff spot. And Vancouver's record at home has actually been very, very good. Their road record, not so much. They're only slightly under 500, so it's not like they're brutally bad on the road. They're 11-12-1 on the road, but they're the only team under 500 on the road that is in a playoff spot right now. Number 8, this one hurts as a Bruins fan. The Boston Bruins are 0-6 in the shootout this year, and I can attest to this watching them on a regular basis this season. Anytime the game goes to overtime, we Bruins fans are not happy, and we certainly want it to end in overtime one way or the other, because we know that if it goes to a shootout, it's a guaranteed loss. And but Boston, it's almost funny at this point how bad the Bruins are in the shootout. Thank God there are no shootouts in the playoffs. It's just brutal to watch them try and win a shootout, and they have not been able to do so all year long. 0-6 in the shootout this year. Number 9, Noel Acciari has 17 goals this year for the Florida Panthers. Noel Acciari, heading into this season, has had 18 goals in his entire NHL career. So he will more than double his career goal total this season with Florida. And he spent the last 2 years in Boston fully up at the NHL level, playing, as a full-time player in the NHL. he combined in those 2 years for 16 goals. So he already has more goals this season than he had in his past 2 NHL seasons. Just an outstanding season for Noel Acciari with the Panthers. I was really sad to see him leave Boston, but it's really working out well. He's playing great with Florida, and I'm really, really happy for him for that. And what an outstanding scoring season for him. Certainly his best in the NHL. And finally, number 10, there are multiple big-name goalies, star NHL goaltenders, with save percentages under 900 this season. These guys are really not playing great this year. There are a lot of big-time goalies not playing all that well this year. To name them off, the ones that I would consider, big-name star goalies, who have a save percentage under 900, Jonathan Quick in LA, Pekka Rinne in Nashville, Sergei Bobrovsky in Florida, Matt Murray in Pittsburgh, Devin Dubnyk in Minnesota, Martin Jones in San Jose, and Braden Holtby in Washington. All have save percentages under 900 this year. Not numbers typical to those players at all. They're all kind of in different ways struggling a bit. Some of them are still winning, certainly. Holtby, Washington's one of the best teams in the league. Bobrovsky's still picking up wins. Even Pekka Rinne, to an extent, still picking up wins. But their overall performance and their numbers are not all that great this season. So those are 10 interesting stats so far from the NHL season. I just went through the stats page and the standings page and found these things really, really interesting to look at. And some of them are certainly kind of surprising. They're not your everyday stats that people are looking at. So hope you enjoyed the video, but like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.